All right, let's get to the developing national news tonight that is hitting hard in Minnesota. President Trump has strong words for Somali immigrants in the United States. He says they are too reliant on the U.S. social safety net and wants them to go back to their country. Those are his words. Now, Trump focused on Minnesota at a cabinet meeting in Washington, D.C. today.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too.
Well, Minnesota has the largest Somali population in the United States. We are talking about nearly 80,000 people here. And this conversation coming to a head this afternoon. So the mayors of Minneapolis and also St. Paul, the Minneapolis police chief, and a Minneapolis council member all holding a news conference today. They addressed immigration enforcement reports and now panic in the Somali community. Meanwhile, one of our photographers actually caught some men being questioned and also asked for their IDs.
Okay, so let me just get right into this, because what I'm about to tell you is absolutely wild. And look, I need you to sit down for this one, because the story that has been circulating online over the past few days, if it turns out to be true, could be one of the biggest financial scandals in American political history. I am not exaggerating here. This is the kind of thing that would make Watergate look like a parking ticket. We are talking about claims, and I want to be very clear here that these are claims circulating primarily on social media and YouTube that the IRS has allegedly discovered $340 million in unreported assets linked to President Trump. $340 million in unreported assets linked to President Trump. That is not a typo. That is not me exaggerating for effect. That is the actual number being thrown around in these viral videos that are absolutely blowing up right now across every platform you can imagine. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Going through the legal process of, their legal residents or citizens. But again, these reports bubbling up, and now this too, the Minneapolis police chief mentioning too that they're hearing a lot of this from the community.
But because I have been concerned, both over the weekend, we've been getting reports, increased reports of immigration-related activity from members in our community. We can't verify that, but we know people in the community are heightened.
Due process will be violated. Mistakes will be made. And let's be clear, it means that American citizens will be detained for no other reason than the fact that they look like they are Somali.
And it gets even crazier, because according to these reports, federal authorities supposedly conducted dawn seizures like early morning raids at some of the most iconic properties in America. We are talking Trump Tower in Manhattan. We are talking Mar-a-Lago down in Florida. We are talking golf courses in Scotland. The whole empire allegedly frozen solid, every transaction locked down, every bank statement under scrutiny. Now, before we go any further, I need to pump the brakes here for a second, because here is what is really interesting about this story. And this is important, so listen up carefully. As of right now, there are no official confirmations from the IRS. There are no official court documents that major credible news outlets have been able to independently verify. This story is primarily circulating through YouTube videos and social media posts from accounts that, let us just say, do not always have the best track record with accuracy. And that is kind of the whole point of today's video, because we need to talk about what is actually happening here. We need to examine what we can verify with real documentation. We need to identify what we absolutely cannot verify. And we need to understand why this story, whether completely true or partially true or totally fabricated, matters for where we are right now as a country. This is bigger than just one headline. Come on, you did not think I was just going to read you some sensational headlines and call it a day, did you? No way. We are going to dig into this thing properly. We are going to look at the actual verified history. We are going to look at what has been confirmed in actual courts with actual judges. And we are going to figure out why these kinds of stories explode online and spread like wildfire. Because here is what I can tell you is absolutely 100% real and documented. The legal battles over Trump's finances, those are very real. The New York civil fraud case, that is very real. The $454 million judgment against him that actually happened in a real courtroom with real lawyers and a real judge. The threats from New York Attorney General Letitia James to seize properties if he did not pay, those threats were made publicly on camera for everyone to see. So when videos start popping up claiming there are dawn raids and hidden offshore accounts and $340 million in secret assets, people believe it. And honestly, can you really blame them? After everything we have seen over the past few years, after all the court cases and the document discoveries and the actual fraud convictions of Trump Organization executives, is it really that crazy to think something like this could potentially happen? And that is what makes this whole situation so absolutely fascinating to me, because we are living in a moment where the line between verified news and viral speculation has become almost impossible to see with the naked eye. And look, I am not here to tell you what to believe. That is not my job. I am here to lay out the facts as we know them, show you what has actually been confirmed by credible sources, and let you make up your own mind like a reasonable adult. But here is what I will say. The timing of all this is incredibly wild when you really think about it. Consider the situation. Trump is sitting in the White House right now, serving his second term as president. His approval ratings on the economy have been pretty strong according to most major polls. And suddenly, boom, these videos start going absolutely viral, claiming his entire financial empire is about to come crashing down around him. Is that just a coincidence? Is there actually something legitimate to all of this? Are these real revelations finally coming to light after years of speculation? Or is this coordinated misinformation designed to damage him politically during his presidency? These are the questions we need to ask. These are the questions the mainstream media should be asking. But honestly, most of them are not doing their jobs. They are either ignoring this story completely, or they are running with it without any real verification whatsoever. And that is exactly why you are here watching this video right now. Because you want the real breakdown. You want someone to actually look at this thing critically and tell you what is genuinely going on beneath all the noise. So that is exactly what we are going to do together. In the next section, we are going to dive deep into the actual verified legal battles over Trump's finances. We are going to examine the New York fraud case in detail. We are going to look at the IRS audits that we know are absolutely real. And we are going to separate cold hard fact from wild speculation. Stay with me. This is going to get very interesting. All right, so let us get into the real meat of this thing. Because if we are going to understand why these viral claims are spreading so fast and so far, we need to understand what has actually been happening with Trump's finances in the real documented world. The stuff that has been verified by courts. The stuff that has gone through actual legal proceedings. The stuff we can actually point to and say with confidence, yeah, that definitely happened. And look, there is a lot here. Like a lot. So buckle up, because we are going deep into this. Let us start with the big one that everyone should know about by now. The New York civil fraud case. This is probably the most significant legal battle over Trump's finances that we have seen in years, maybe ever. And unlike these viral videos floating around social media, this one is completely documented and verified by actual court records that anyone can look up if they want to see for themselves. Back in February 2024, a New York judge ruled that Trump had committed fraud by systematically inflating the value of his properties on financial statements. We are talking about lying to banks and insurance companies to get better loan terms and lower insurance premiums. This was not a small thing. This was years of allegedly manipulating property values to make himself look richer than he actually was. And the penalty, are you ready for this number, was initially around $454 million, including all the accumulated interest. $454 million. That is not a rumor someone made up. That is not speculation from some random YouTube channel. That was an actual court judgment issued by an actual judge in an actual courtroom in New York. And here's where the story gets really interesting. Because when that massive judgment came down, there was a very real question about whether Trump could actually pay it. He had to come up with the money to post a bond while he appealed the decision. And for a while there, it genuinely looked like he might not be able to do it. His lawyers were scrambling. They were going to different bonding companies. They were getting rejected left and right. That is when New York Attorney General Letitia James went on camera and said, and this is something you can look up yourself, that she will use every legal tool available to recover what is owed to the state of New York. She specifically mentioned the possibility of seizing Trump properties if he did not pay up in time. She was not being subtle about it either. She named specific properties. She talked about enforcement mechanisms. So when these viral videos talk about property seizures and frozen assets, they are not inventing this concept out of thin air. There is a real documented history here. There is a real legal foundation for these kinds of discussions. The threats to seize properties were actually made by an actual attorney general in an actual press conference that was broadcast on national television. Now here is where we need to be really careful with our analysis. because there is a massive difference between threats and actual seizures. There is a huge difference between a judgment being issued and properties actually being raided at dawn by federal agents in tactical gear. Those are completely different things. And as of right now, as I am recording this video, I cannot find any credible confirmation that dawn raids actually occurred at Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago in the way these viral videos are describing. That does not necessarily mean it did not happen somewhere, somehow, but it means we absolutely need to be careful about what we are accepting as verified fact versus exciting speculation. But let us keep going because there is more real documented stuff to talk about here. The IRS audits, these are also completely real and documented. ProPublica, which is a Pulitzer Prize winning investigative news organization with an excellent track record, reported back in May 2024 that there was an ongoing IRS audit of Trump's Chicago Tower that could potentially cost him $100 million in back taxes. Again, not a rumor from social media. That was actual investigative reporting from real journalists who actually verified their information before publishing it. And this is really important context for understanding the current situation, because if there are legitimate IRS audits happening right now, and if those audits are uncovering potential serious problems, then it is not that crazy to think the IRS might find other issues in other places too. Tax problems tend to not be isolated incidents. Is it 340 million in hidden assets like these videos claim? I honestly do not know. That specific number I absolutely cannot verify from any credible source. But the general idea that the IRS is actively looking at Trump's finances and finding potential problems, that is documented in mainstream publications. And here is something else that is really interesting. The New York Times reported in September 2025 about Trump and IRS tax shelter issues. So this is not ancient history we are talking about. The scrutiny is ongoing. The investigations are continuing. The federal government is definitely still looking at his finances with a very close eye. Now let us talk about why these stories spread so incredibly fast online. And this is where it gets really interesting from a media analysis perspective. We are living in a moment where trust in traditional mainstream media is at historic lows. I mean, rock bottom levels. People do not trust CNN anymore. People do not trust Fox News anymore. People do not trust the New York Times or the Washington Post. And honestly, can you really blame them after everything we have seen? After years of getting major stories wrong? After years of obvious bias in both directions, depending on which network you watch? People have kind of given up on mainstream outlets entirely. So where do regular people go for information now? YouTube, social media, TikTok, independent creators like myself. And look, there is a lot of genuinely good independent journalism out there. There really is. Some of the best investigative work happening right now is from independent journalists. But there is also a lot of absolute garbage mixed in. And here's the problem. The algorithm does not care about accuracy. The algorithm cares about engagement, period. What gets maximum engagement on these platforms? Shocking claims, outrageous headlines, dawn raids on Trump properties, hidden offshore accounts, 340 million in unreported assets, secret bank accounts the IRS just discovered. That stuff spreads like wildfire through dry brush. It does not matter if it has been verified by multiple sources. It does not matter if there are actual court documents backing it up. If it sounds explosive and dramatic, it is going to get clicks and shares and views. And here's the thing that really genuinely frustrates me about all of this, because there is enough real verified stuff happening with Trump's finances that you absolutely do not need to make things up or exaggerate. The actual documented facts are wild enough on their own merits. A $454 million civil fraud judgment that is completely real and verified. Potential $100 million IRS audit liability that is real and documented. Trump Organization executives being convicted of tax fraud in criminal court that actually happened back in 2022. Real convictions, real guilty verdicts. You do not need to invent dramatic dawn raids to tell a compelling story here. The verified truth is already incredibly wild. But the truth is also complicated and messy and nuanced. And complicated does not do well on YouTube or TikTok. Complicated does not get shared a million times on Facebook and Twitter. People want simple narratives they can understand quickly. Good guys and bad guys, heroes and villains, clear winners and losers. And that is exactly what these viral videos provide so effectively. They take the complicated, messy reality of Trump's finances with all its legal nuances and procedural complexities, and they turn it into a simple, dramatic story. The IRS caught him red-handed. The feds raided him at dawn. His empire is crumbling before our eyes. It is emotionally satisfying. It is dramatically compelling. It confirms what a lot of people already believe about Trump. But is it actually accurate? Is it actually verified? That is the question we all need to be asking ourselves. Not just about Trump specifically, about everything we consume online. Because this same dynamic plays out with every single major political story these days. The viral version spreads like crazy. The nuanced truth gets buried at the bottom of the feed. And we all end up more confused and more divided than we were before. Now I want to be absolutely clear about something important. I am not defending Trump here. Not at all. If he actually did hide $340 million from the IRS in secret offshore accounts, he should absolutely face serious legal consequences for that. Nobody is above the law. That includes sitting presidents. That includes billionaires. That includes everyone. But I am also not going to sit here and tell you something is definitely true when I personally cannot verify it from credible sources. That is not what this channel is about, and it never will be. We deal in facts here. We deal in evidence. We deal in what can actually be proven and documented. And right now, the proven documented facts are serious enough on their own. We do not need the unverified sensational stuff to understand that Trump's financial situation is incredibly complicated and potentially very problematic. Okay, so let us break this whole thing down into what we actually know for certain versus what we are still waiting to verify. Because after all that information, I want to make absolutely sure we are all on the same page about what is real and documented versus what is still speculation and rumor. First thing, and this is probably the most important thing I am going to say in this entire video, the viral claims about $340 million in unreported assets and dramatic dawn raids on Trump properties have not been officially confirmed by any credible mainstream source. The IRS has not made any public statements about this. No verified court documents have been released to the public. The major news outlets like the New York Times and Washington Post and Reuters and AP, none of them have picked this up and run with it. That does not automatically mean it is false. It just means we cannot verify it right now with the information available to us. And in real journalism, in actual responsible journalism, you do not report something as established fact until you can properly verify it through multiple credible sources. Second thing we know for absolutely certain, Trump does have serious ongoing legal issues related to his personal and business finances. The New York civil fraud case is completely real and documented. The judgment against him was real and issued by a real judge. The appeals process is ongoing right now as we speak. As of August 2025, NPR reported that the civil fraud penalty situation was still being actively worked through the appellate courts. This case is far from over and will likely continue for quite some time. Third thing we know with certainty, the IRS has been actively auditing Trump properties for years now. The Chicago Tower audit that could potentially cost him $100 million in back taxes is documented by ProPublica. And here is something particularly interesting that adds more context. The New York Times reported in September 2025 specifically about Trump and IRS tax shelter issues. So the federal government is definitely continuing to scrutinize his finances with great intensity. Fourth thing, and this is contextual background that matters for understanding the bigger picture. Trump just signed a bill about taxpayer rights and IRS transparency in December 2025. This was a bill that requires the IRS to show its math and explain its reasoning when changing tax returns. Some people might look at that and say it is deeply ironic given all the allegations floating around about his own taxes. Others might argue it shows he has got nothing to hide and he is confident in his own financial transparency. I will let you decide for yourself which interpretation makes more sense. Now here is why all of this matters, beyond just the Trump stuff specifically. This is about something bigger. We are living in an information environment where viral claims can spread around the world faster than fact checkers can possibly debunk them. By the time someone actually verifies whether something is true or not, millions upon millions of people have already seen the original claim and formed strong opinions based on it. The toothpaste is already out of the tube, and that dynamic is genuinely dangerous. Whether you love Trump or absolutely hate him, that dynamic is dangerous for everyone in society. Because today, it is unverified claims about Trump's finances spreading everywhere. Tomorrow, it is unverified claims about your preferred candidate, or your important issue, or your community, or even about you personally. The same algorithmic mechanics that spread potentially false claims about Trump can spread potentially false claims about literally anyone. And the social media algorithms do not care one bit about accuracy or truth. They care about engagement metrics. They care about watch time. They care about clicks and shares and comments. That is what drives their revenue. So what do we actually do about this situation? How do we navigate an information landscape where viral speculation routinely gets treated as verified breaking news? First and most importantly, we slow down before reacting. When you see a shocking headline, especially one that perfectly confirms what you already believe about someone or something, Be skeptical of it. Ask yourself some basic questions. Is this verified by multiple credible sources? Where exactly is this information coming from? Has any major established outlet confirmed this independently? Second, we look at verified history for context. In this particular case, the documented history of Trump's financial legal battles gives us useful context for evaluating new claims. We know there are real verified issues in his past. We know there are real documented lawsuits still ongoing. We know there are real IRS audits happening. So claims about new developments are not completely crazy on their face, but we still absolutely need independent verification before accepting them as fact. Third, we accept uncertainty even when it is uncomfortable. And this is honestly the hardest one for most people because our brains desperately want certainty. We want to know definitively whether something is absolutely true or completely false. But sometimes the honest answer is simply, we do not know yet. We are still waiting for more information. And right now, with these specific viral claims about 340 million in hidden assets and dramatic dawn raids at famous properties, the most honest answer available is we do not know. We cannot verify it from credible sources. And anyone telling you they know for certain, one way or the other, is probably not being straight with you. What I can tell you with confidence is this: Trump's financial situation is genuinely complicated and genuinely legally fraught. That has been true for years now. The civil fraud case alone represents one of the biggest legal challenges any sitting president has ever faced regarding their personal and business finances. That is not nothing. That is historically significant. Whether there are additional major revelations coming soon, whether the IRS has found more serious issues beyond what has already been reported, whether any of these viral claims turn out to have any truth to them, we are just going to have to wait and see as more information becomes available. But here is the thing I really want to leave you with today, and I think this is crucial. The fact that we cannot verify something right now does not mean we should completely ignore it and pretend it does not exist. And the fact that something goes viral quickly does not mean we should automatically believe it is true. We have to hold both of those seemingly contradictory ideas in our heads at the same time. That is called critical thinking. Be appropriately skeptical of unverified claims. Be genuinely curious about what might be true. Demand solid evidence before forming strong opinions, but also pay close attention to developing stories. Because in this current political environment, sometimes the unthinkable turns out to be completely true. And sometimes the most viral, explosive claim turns out to be complete and utter garbage. The only reliable way to tell the difference is to wait patiently for the actual evidence, to carefully examine the original sources, to think critically and analytically, instead of just reacting emotionally based on what we want to be true. And I know that is not as emotionally satisfying as a simple, clear answer. I know some of you came here wanting me to tell you definitively whether this whole story is real or completely fake. But the honest truth is, I cannot do that. Not yet. Not until we have more verified information from credible sources. What I can absolutely tell you is that I am going to keep watching this story very closely. I am going to keep digging into every new development. And as soon as there is verified information from credible sources, you are going to hear about it right here on this channel. Because that is what we do here. We chase the truth even when it is complicated and messy. Especially when it is complicated and messy. We do not just tell you what you want to hear. We tell you what we can actually verify. So hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a comment below telling me what you think about all this, because this story is definitely not over yet. The legal battles are continuing. The investigations are ongoing. And whatever happens next, whether these viral claims get verified or completely debunked, you are going to want to be here when it all breaks wide open. I will see you in the next one.